Greetings, my name is Martin, I'm a great Warcraft lore enjoyer. I've played WoW in its early days and I am playing it again now. And with Midnight coming along, I do ask myself a question. Do we still need factions in WoW, or is it time for them to go? This is the Eye of Kilrogg. Let's look into that. In Midnight, a big portion of the Blood Elf capital Silvermoon will be available for Alliance players, and once again the different Elven tribes come together in peace. Players of both factions helped giving the Night Elves a new home back in Dragonflight, and with yet another world-ending threat looming over Azeroth, Alliance and Horde are once again fighting for the bigger cause for the time being. And I really wonder if this will be the end of the conflict for good, or if there is a whole new escalation coming our way. I was born a son of the Horde. On a PvP server, I took every opportunity to fight the Alliance scum. From Stranglethorn Vale to the Eastern Plaguelands, I defended Drekthar in the Alterac Valley with my life as an Orc warrior over and over again, rather dying in honor than living without. I stood my ground from the Arathi Basin to the Eye of the Storm as a Blood Knight of the Sindore, and I took pride in being the first one to jump onto that Alliance airship over the Serenite towers of Icecrown Citadel. I will never forget, and definitely never forgive, the war crimes of the Alliance, and I'll never stop downplaying our own. But I think these times are over. I really believe it. When I enter a world PvP area, everyone is flagged as an enemy. When I enter a battleground, the teams will be mixed factions. When we raid, we have Alliance players in our guild now. And over the past 2 years, I noticed when I walk past a gnome out in the world, I don't even care anymore. I don't feel the need to challenge him to a duel. I don't even feel the urge to spit at him, even though it's not possible anyway. And when I see faction conflict, like in the Arathi Highlands recently, I'm having a hard time taking it seriously with the way the game is nowadays. And obviously that cutscene didn't really help. Warcraft has obviously always been built around the conflict between orcs and humans. Warcraft 3 drew new races into the conflict, and after a time of relative peace, the launch of World of Warcraft was accompanied by the phrase, "The drums of war, thunder once again." Over the years we have seen several phases of relative peace and all-out war between the factions. In Mists of Pandaria we saw the first cross-faction race with the Pandaren, but starting very subtly with the mercenary system in PvP and continuing with cross-faction communities and groups in Shadowlands, the mantle of faction division started lifting even in game mechanics. From this, there is no way back, only forward. Cross-faction guilds followed at the end of Dragonflight, alongside the second cross-faction playable race, the Dracthyr, which was then followed by the Earthen, and is going to be followed by the Haranir. Even queuing for random dungeons became an option in the War Within, and the initial faction headquarters in Dornogal ended up not being utilized for the remainder of the expansion after being introduced near the end of the initial War Within campaign. At this point in time, the question for me is not if the factions will merge at some point, but how soon it's going to happen. Midnight is already a big step in terms of new game philosophy. Simplified classes, culling of add-ons, an updated new player experience and UI. Pet battles are going to be discontinued. Voices expecting a console launch are getting louder. Tons of new players may be flooding the servers soon. Will they still be forced to choose a faction? Or will the factions finally be removed from the game at this point? It is obvious that the factions do not really serve a purpose in nowadays game. They have become a bottleneck in making content enjoyable and accessible for the players, because the retail community has gotten so small, and the steps that Blizzard has taken to keep WoW playable have made it impossible to walk them back. The factions can't be properly divided again, even if player numbers should skyrocket again with the reimagination of part of the game that's coming our way. Alliance and Horde are mere labels nowadays. The game experience is the same for everyone. There are no faction zones or even hubs anymore. In-game, Horde and Alliance have entirely merged over the past 2 years. And it is actually stranger to get in a situation where you're 3 people of mixed factions in a group and have to relearn that you can only queue with a full group of mixed players for time walking dungeons than it is to die side by side with a gnome. But then the Arathi Highlands happened, and apparently there's even somewhat of an outdoor battleground coming in Midnight, and I really wonder where all of this is supposed to lead now. How are factions supposed to come back when we are in cross-faction guilds, play cross-faction battlegrounds, and in some way have become cross-faction people? In Panda Remix, we, a Horde guild, decided to all roll Alliance, for the fuck of it. Many of us for the very first time. My Draenei Death Knight became the first max level Alliance character I ever played, and I actually kept playing it for a bit in the War Within. It even ended up becoming the first Alliance character to join our guild. So how are things going to go? I think that the factions will stick around for Midnight. And I also think they'll stick around for the Last Titan. But I also believe that due to the changes of the last 2 years, people have lost a lot of their faction identity and pride. And that even made up tensions between the factions now, like in the Arathi Highlands and maybe in the new Silver Moon, will never feel the same as they used to. And this will ultimately cause the factions to fall during or with the end of the Last Titan. But with the World Soul Saga over and this final ultimate threat gone, this would be the time where Alliance and Horde would start fighting again, where tensions would rise because there's nothing else to do. And after a short period of relative peace, someone would act out and start something that can't be easily stopped. So what if WoW really gets a second life after running for 25 years? After finishing the World Soul Saga, with a console port, maybe even a free-to-play model and millions of new players, I can see the factions returning to the game. But maybe they won't be chosen for you based on the race you play. Maybe my Draenei Death Knight can become a true son of the Horde after all these years. Maybe I will find myself on the battlefield butchering fellow Orcs or Blood Elves that betrayed the Horde and joined the filthy alliance. Maybe the drums of war will thunder
once again.